The screen opens with the soft hum of a morning breeze sweeping across a quiet military base, and before the viewer can settle in, the narrator's voice drops like a pin in absolute silence. They said he was just a gate guard, just another uniform doing routine checks, but everything changed the moment a Navy SEAL stepped out of his SUV and saluted her first. The camera freezes on the image of a lone figure standing beside the orange and white barrier, sunlight washing over her crisp uniform, her eyes steady but haunted. Quick flashes interrupt the calm explosions in a distant desert, a medic dragging a wounded man across broken ground, a pair of trembling hands covered in blood. Then it cuts back to the gate, to her motionless figure, as if the world has no idea what she carries. What happened months earlier, the narrator says slowly, would turn this quiet moment into the most shocking sight Fort Ashland had ever seen. Suspense lingers, daring the viewer to look away. The scene transitions smoothly into her daily world. Private First Class Emily Hart standing at the East Gate right as the clock hits 0500 hours. There's no glory in her job, no praise, no spotlight. She checks IDs, logs vehicles, gives curt nods, and continues her duty with a discipline that almost looks robotic. Most people barely notice her. Some assume she's new. Others think she's recovering from something she won't talk about. The truth, she never corrected anyone. She never defended herself. She just stood her post, silent and unreadable, guarding the gate like it was the only place she belonged. But beneath that calm exterior are memories that press against her ribs, moments she never speaks about, nights she wakes from, and sacrifices she never expected to make. No one at the base knows what she did 3 months before. No one knows the reason her eyes sometimes drift far away, as if she's standing into places at once. She had been placed at the gate because they thought she needed something simple, something quiet. They never imagined that the quietest soldier on the base would one day stop a convoy with nothing more than the weight of her name, and the memory it carried for a man she once saved. The story pulls us backward, months before anyone at Fort Ashland even knew Private First Class Emily Hart's name. Somewhere on a dusty Afghan road, the world was collapsing in flame and chaos. Her platoon had been moving through what looked like a quiet stretch outside Kandahar, quiet as it turned out. Without warning, the road erupted beneath them. A deafening blast tore open the lead vehicle, sending metal and sand flying like burning shrapnel. The convoy screeched to a halt, gunfire crackling from both sides like a trap snapping shut. In that instant, every soldier dove for cover, guns raised, hearts pounding. Except Emily. She didn't reach for her rifle. She reached for her medic bag. Emily wasn't supposed to be on this deployment. She'd barely spent 2 years in service, mostly inside a base clinic patching scrapes and checking vitals. But when one medic dropped out just days before deployment, Emily stepped in quietly, without complaint, without hesitation. And that choice placed her right in the middle of hell. She ran through open fire, dragging wounded men twice her size across broken asphalt. She pressed bandages onto wounds while bullets tore the dirt beside her. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from urgency. She didn't even notice the searing pain in her leg until later. Shrapnel had embedded deep, but she refused evacuation. Not until they're all stable, she insisted, breathless, sweat and blood dripping from her chin. By the time reinforcements arrived, 12 men were alive because she didn't stop. But the mission was classified, the heroism erased. Her wounds labeled non-critical, her name never spoken. They sent her back home with a quiet assignment, gate duty. A place no one would ask questions, but heroes don't stay hidden forever. It was an ordinary afternoon, heat shimmering off the asphalt, the scent of motor oil drifting from the motor pool, soldiers moving in slow patterns through routine base life. Emily stood at her post like she always did, expression calm, posture perfect. Nothing about her presence demanded attention until the convoy arrived. A line of black SUVs rolled toward the east gate, darker than the shadows stretching across the pavement, windows tinted, movement crisp. Something about them quieted the entire road. Emily stepped forward, scanning IDIS with the same disciplined rhythm she had done hundreds of times before. First soldier, clear. Second, clear. Third, clear. Nothing unusual. Then she reached the final vehicle. The window slid down, revealing a broad-shouldered man with sharp, battle-weathered eyes. His presence alone could silence a room. The ID read, Commander James Rohr, United States Navy SEALs. Emily handed it back with practiced professionalism, prepared to wave the convoy through. But Rohr didn't drive. He didn't even blink. His gaze lingered on her name patch. Hart. His jaw tightened. His eyes widened as if a memory he'd buried suddenly ripped back to life. Then, in a moment no one on that base could have predicted, the Navy SEAL commander opened his door and stepped out. The soldiers in the SUVS froze, confused. A commander never exits unless something is wrong. But Rohr wasn't angry. He wasn't suspicious. He walked straight to Emily, silent, steady, deliberate. And then he saluted, not a casual nod, not a polite gesture, a full, crisp, flawless military salute delivered with absolute respect. The gate fell silent, soldiers stared, civilians paused mid-step. Even Emily's breath caught in her chest. She had no idea why a man of his rank, his reputation, his history would salute her, until he spoke. "I owe you my life, Private Hart," the words echoed through the gate like a shockwave. Emily froze, her pulse thundering in her ears. She opened her mouth, unsure what to say, but Commander Rohr spoke first, his voice low, steady, almost reverent. "You carried me out of hell," he said. "You kept me alive when I couldn't breathe." Every soldier around stiffened. Whispers spread instantly. Rohr explained what Emily herself didn't know during that same ambush in Afghanistan. He had been the Navy SEAL shot through the chest, bleeding out in the back of a burning Humvee. He remembered flashes, fire licking the sky, metal twisting under heat, pain ripping through him, and a pair of hands pressing down on his wound, small hands. Determined hands, a medic's voice, breaking but unstoppable. "Stay with me. Don't you dare quit on me." He didn't know who she was at the time. His vision was too blurred, consciousness fading too fast, but her voice, he never forgot it. And seeing her name, Hart slammed the memory back into place like a puzzle piece he'd spent months searching for. Emily shook her head, overwhelmed. "Sir, I was just doing my job." Rohr didn't lower his salute. "No, you went beyond your job. You ran through fire when you didn't have to. You saved a SEAL when he couldn't save himself. That's not duty. That's courage." By that evening, the entire base knew the truth. The quiet gate guard wasn't just a guard, she was a medic who had saved 12 soldiers and ASEAL commander. Officers who once walked past her without noticing now saluted her first. Soldiers stood straighter when she passed. Respect rippled through Fort Ashland like a rising tide. A few days later, Commander Rohr returned alone, no convoy, no ceremony. Just a simple statement: "I've submitted your name for the Silver Star." Emily's eyes stung. The recognition wasn't what mattered, it was finally being seen. And her story was no longer hidden, it had finally stepped into the light. As the sun finally dipped behind the training grounds, the base returned to its usual rhythm: boots on gravel, radios crackling, routine orders echoing across the compound. But something had shifted, something that couldn't be undone. Emily stood by the gate with the same straight posture, the same quiet discipline, yet she wasn't the invisible soldier anymore. Men and women who had passed her 1,000 times without notice now slowed down, offering nods, small smiles, or the subtle gesture of respect only those in uniform truly understand. The salute she received that morning from the Navy SEAL didn't just honor a single act of bravery, it exposed the depth of a story she tried so hard to bury. For the first time, she allowed herself to breathe a little deeper. She didn't crave attention, didn't want a medal, and didn't feel the need to explain the nightmares that sometimes clawed their way back into her mind. But knowing that someone remembered, someone who had survived because of her, felt like a weight lifting off a part of her soul she thought would stay locked forever. She realized that bravery wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was the quiet endurance of showing up, day after day, even when the world had no idea what you carried.